Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I hope your week has been just as good as the Philadelphia sports week. Philadelphia went 5-3 this week. The Flyers picking up 2 wins and a loss. The Fusion picking up 2 wins. The Wings with a win and a loss. And the Union in a loss in their first preseason game of the year. And with that being said, sit down, get ready for another trip down the orange line.
Wake up, Philadelphia, and let me hear you sing.
Fly, Eagles, fly, on the road to victory. He had high hopes. He had high hopes.
Clap your hands, everybody, for Philadelphia 76ers.
All right, so welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is good to see you. Since we last talked, a lot went down, and one of the things that I walked away from last week realizing was that I did not know that much about the Philadelphia Sixers. So I did some studying up, and I did some looking into. Now, the reason I did that is because there were no Sixers games on, just because of the fact that there was the All-Star break that has just happened. We had 2 players playing in that game. That would be Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, rightfully deserving of being on those teams, by the way. The more I look into it, these guys are really good at basketball. So well-deserved. I know they ended up being split, so one was playing for Team LeBron and Team Oladipo, I think. Someone somewhere is going to correct me on this, but it doesn't really matter because I want to talk about this team, the team that I had to sit here and I learned about. And pretty interestingly enough, like my friend last week said that this team is a team that could be downright unbeatable, but they just have a lot of clashing personalities. In front, it seems like a lot of other people think that. I mean, James Harden even said that they've been good and that we're up there. But even Kawhi Leonard just said that we just have to get the chemistry together. We'll end up being a team that is, I mean, really good at what they do. So I'm hoping for the best for this team, as usual. That's a pretty typical, Pat Haley orange line thing. And honestly, things are looking up for this team. I mean, they're one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference, and the Eastern Conference is wide open. There's plenty of teams that can take it, and it's making for a really interesting season so far. And there was just recently a power rankings for the Eastern Conference for the NBA, and Sixers came out at 4th. And the writer cited that the biggest reason for why they landed in 4th is because the 3 top teams, which are the Bucks, the Raptors, and the Celtics, in that order, combined, the Sixers only have 1 win over them. And that 1 win was against Toronto, and they didn't even have Kawhi Leonard. And another big thing that the article ended up citing on was the fact that this team needs to work on their chemistry. And it's just because there's so many big names out there. Joel Embiid, there's Ben Simmons, there's Jimmy Butler, and now we have Boban Marjanovic or whatever his name is. I'm still very confused on the last name, but we also have another starter being added into the mix who's thrown up some decent points, which is Tobias Harris. So far this season, he's averaged a 20.7 points per game. And with the Sixers in the 4 or 5 games that he has played with us, he has averaged about 17 5.8 points per game. So he's getting points up there, and he's absolutely contributing to the scoring, which uh, I can only assume is like a really good thing in basketball. Um, and from what I read, it seemed like he was really, really excited to play here. He's been bounced around onto a few teams, and he was excited to be able to play on a team that seems like they're almost at that championship level, and that they are one of those teams that can actually make a serious contenders run, which is awesome. It's awesome because that means that he's going to want to fight for it, and he's going to want these guys to play as well as they possibly can. So it seems like he's very team minded in the sense of like, let's make this team really good. Other people on the team, like Joel Embiid, have also said that they're really excited to play with him. And you know, with him being added to the starting five, it's making that core of players look really, really good. From what I've seen, a lot of different people around the league are thinking that this team can be a lot better, just so long as they start working on their chemistry. As for a team that is about to get underway starting tonight, the night of recording, is the Philadelphia Phillies. I was digging around for some information. I was trying to, get around all of that Bryce Harper and Manny Machado news. And one of the things that I found was a list, as there are many of them on the internet. And this list happened to be the MLB Top 100 players. I don't know who wrote it, but it sounded like someone very credible. But on that list, the thing that I really wanted to cite is that there are 5 players that play for the Phillies that showed up on the list. Some of them pretty decently far down, and some of them, I mean, they're up in the hundreds, but it's still incredible to be considered one of the best 100 players in a league that has thousands. So I mean, that's awesome. Those 5 players are going to be coming in at this order. Number 24 was Aaron Nola. A dude I absolutely love. I think he's going to end up being my next Phillies jersey. Either that or Rhys Hoskins, who we will get to. But yeah, Aaron Nola, he was number 6 on the list of pitchers, which, again, makes me feel really great about him. I love the dude, and he's one of our biggest assets as the Phillies. So it's great to get that recognition. Number 40 on the list was JT Real Muto. I'm probably fucking up the name one way or the other. But he was on the list, our brand new catcher who we have just acquired from Miami. Again, someone correct me in the comments below. Yell at me on Twitter at DrPhD. But one thing about JT is that he was the number 1 catcher in the league. That's awesome. That's really cool. Please tell me more nice things. And the interesting part about this is I went a little digging just to see where some of these players stack up. The next catcher on the list is Buster Posey, and he is a whole 52 spots behind him at 92, which just makes me think that there is a decent gap in skill level between JT and Buster. Hooray! The Phillies walk out on top. Number 59 is our boy, Rhys Hoskins. He was number 7 in all of defensemen. First baseman. I'm thinking about a different sport, which we will get to. I'm just so excited for it. Following up that was number 83, Jean Segura. Again, I just call him Segura. I'm saying the real name because that's what I wrote. But Segura ended up being 83, number 10 out of all the shortstops. And rounding out our 5 that we had on the list is Andrew McCutchen. Uh, Another person that we got in a trade that I'm very excited to have on this team. He was 95. He's 20 spots lower than another fellow Philly, Michael Brantley. So close one, Michael. But maybe if they do a top 120 players list, then we will see you on there. As for Harper talks, I mentioned that at the very beginning. Still nothing. Still no idea. It seems like Philly is a a, a possibility. Um, but we still have no real idea here. Machado though, he just got signed. He signed to the Padres, I believe, for 300 million. I'm not sure of the numbers, but I know he signed a long-term deal with the San Diego Padres. Good for them. I hope he doesn't ruin your locker room. Um, and the interesting thing I think about that is from the little bit of news I saw about Harper, is that's kind of the same deal that I saw people saying that Harper might get, which is awesome because, I mean, that just means we're going to be paying more money for this guy if we get him. We do have the money to throw around, but I don't want to just throw money at people and go, here, make our team happy. That's just me. As for a team that ended the weekend all right, that would be the Philadelphia Wings. They had a home against the New England Black Wolves. I think it was Black Wolves. They what did they go? They went 14-10 on at the home game. It was one of their 2 wins all year, and then they lost 17-11 to the Black Wolves at New England. So they improved to 5-4 after our little stint, and that is just annoying. It's annoying because I would have liked to see them walk away with 2 big wins. I mean, we should see more wins from this team, and I think they have a lot of room to grow. But they look good when they're hot. They're really hot out there. I was lucky enough to go to the game on Saturday. I was 2 rows behind the opposing bench. And one thing that you learn from behind the bench is that that team can be full of busters. That's all they were. Um, I keep telling people that there's a group of people that stand right at the top of that tunnel where the opposing team comes out, and they're all Wings fans. And throughout the game, they just taunt all the time, and it's like it's not clever, and I won't say it's good, but it's really funny. Um, at one point there was a TV timeout, and the offensive coach or the defensive coach was getting all their guys over to the side, drawing up a play and being like, oh, this is what we got to do, blah blah blah. And there's one guy who's just yelling down that tunnel and was like, don't listen to him. He's not gonna get you the win. You guys are losing. He's not a good coach. Um, and there were 2 names. There was Digby and Crawford that kept on getting called out all night long. All night long, there was one guy who would start a chant in that group, and they would be like, Digby, Digby. Eventually the guys that were getting taunted, they all were like, oh well, blah blah blah. They were nodding their head. They were trying to laugh it off. Obviously, they got to them though, because both Digby and Crawford ended the game in the box because they were just taking penalties because they were so mad. And they were probably annoyed that they were losing the game. They didn't look that great in the game either. But at the same time, I like to think that we got in their head. We got to them. And the one thing I like about Wings games is they feel a little bit more of like an intimate time. I don't know. It feels closer with the players because it's not as vast, I guess. Maybe it's because I'm sitting closer and I'm right there and I can just yell at the guy. But like without so many people up top and with a good amount of people in the bowl, it really felt like we were able to yell something more to people. I don't know. It was a fun time. If you have a chance to go to a Wings game, I absolutely suggest it. Team that ended the week super strong, however, is the Philadelphia Fusion, our local Overwatch team in the Overwatch League. And they started off real strong 2-0, convincingly beating the London Spitfire, who were the world champs. We beat them 3 maps to 1, taking maps 1, 2, and 4, um, with a pretty back and forth map number 3. But there seemed like there could have been some light for London after taking map 3. They ended the map looking pretty strong, and like they had a lot of confidence going into map number 4, which was immediately snuffed out by the Fusion. I believe they only made it about 47 meters in map 4 carrying the payload. Which, if you are not aware, map 4 you have to push a payload with the rest of your teammates. And they just London just couldn't get by them. Fusion then when they got their turn, they quickly were able to just go right through them. Which was great. Carpe ends up winning player of the match. He played really confidently. I was told he did a lot of really sneaky things that weren't necessarily mentioned in the broadcast that made him really good, such as a play that ended up saving his life and a teammate's life. While there was an exploding diva mech out there on the field. So it was really good for them. It seemed like he had a really strong idea of what the Spitfire were trying to do, and it was even more obvious when they ended up talking to him after the game. You know, player of the game. Oh, how do you feel? Blah blah blah. And he said that they're gonna go into the next week with a win. He sounded so confident, and it was honestly just great to listen to, because I love a guy who's so good that he can just confidently say, yeah, we're a really good team and we're going to win, which was kind of proven in the next week. They faced off against the Atlanta Reign in what I've seen to be called the best match so far in an absolutely insane back and forth match. Every single map could have gone either way. It always seemed like the very, very, very end of every single game. Uh, just it could have been a coin flip essentially. Someone had a really nice ult, and all of a sudden the tide has turned. So great stuff by the Fusion. Carpe had an insane 23.5 limbs per 10 minutes. Sorry, I'm reading off my notes here. And the great thing I think is even though it was a really back and forth game and a really back and forth match the entire time, uh, all of Philly had a higher limbs per 10 minutes than all of Atlanta. I don't know what that says, but I know that that says something. But Carpe looked great, and Fusion really kind of putting their foot down and going, yeah, we are a team that can possibly take it. So I'm hoping for it. Love the Fusion, and they're starting tonight, Thursday. I'll give a rundown of the schedule at the very end of the podcast. But week number 3, or I guess game number 3, is starting tonight. As for some other sports, the Soul are still in their off season. The coach and the GM just had a little bit of a podcast talking about some of the changes to the league, saying that they're excited to play, saying that they're feeling confident with this team, and I didn't really seem like there was much other news, but stay posted because the season's coming back. Let's get the soul. They are the heart and soul of of Philadelphia, one of the most championship winning teams that we have here. So gotta love them. Another team, Union. They lost 1-0 to the Montreal Impact in their first preseason game. Or oh no, I believe their last preseason game. I think they are done. They are taking a week off. Um, and then it is going to be the regular season. MLS soccer is back. Um, America's desperate attempt to be the Premier League, but get excited about it either way. Philadelphia Union, hell yeah. They go down 1-0 to the Montreal Impact though, so that's kind of lame. As for the Eagles, I won't say that what they've been up to is lame, but I will say that it hasn't changed for a little bit. Things seem kind of stagnant. A lot of people are talking about fantasy drafts and what this draft is going to end up looking like, who the Eagles are going to take. Everyone's desperately saying something for the secondary, to which I agree. Which pretty much makes me go, there's not much else to talk about. Go Birds, though. At some point, I do want to sit down and have a remembrance of the legend that is Nick Foles, but we will do that at another time. Because now we are talking about the story that I have been waiting so long for. The Philadelphia Flyers have had a, let's say, decent week. They swept a home-at-home series against the Red Wings, improving to 12-1-1 before Tuesday, which was the best record in the league since mid-January. So the Flyers have legitimately been the hottest team in the NHL, which includes the Tampa Bay Lightning and the St. Louis Blues, or the Columbus Blue Jackets, I should say. One or the other. Someone else out there is doing very well. I keep getting all these facts mixed up. Someone set me straight. But we went into Tuesday 12-1-1 and walked out 12-2-1 because we did play the Tampa Bay Lightning, probably the best team in the NHL, bar none. Ended up giving Nikita Kucherov his 100th point of the season, game 61, I believe. Good for him, blah, blah, blah. That's not the Flyers, so we don't care. One thing we should care about is how Hart is doing. He let in 3 goals in the first period and was quickly yanked after that, which I feel like is a smart decision. He was starting his 3rd straight after a back-to-back against Detroit. So he was probably a little bit tired, a little bit fatigued. And the thing I noticed about the Tampa Bay game is there were some iffy calls. Things didn't necessarily play out the way that I would have called it, but I'm also a Flyers fan. It just seemed like they were letting the boys play. They were letting the hits happen. But there were some things that just did not really make sense. I do think Hart being pulled was the right decision, even though the Flyers went down 5-2. Pulling Hart that early in a game where he could absolutely get lit up by just some insane goal scorers is kind of like a savior kind of moment. And I hope. I mean, it doesn't seem like this kid has an ego to him, but I hope this in some way humbles him. It at least makes it go like, okay, I'm not that great yet, so I still have room to work with. I still have a way to improve. A great way he could do that is by listening to one of his new buddies on the team, Cam Talbot, I believe his first name is Cam. But Talbot is on his way. I believe he actually arrived Wednesday. So good for him. But he is absolutely there to mentor Hart. Hart has said that before his first NHL start, he ended up calling up Talbot and was just like, "Oh, do you have any advice? Is there anything I can do?" Blah blah blah. So hopefully they are best friends together. Hart really just seems like a great guy. They've also shared a lot of ice time together, so it seems like they do have a decent relationship. And Talbot said that he's always willing to learn more and do what he can to get better. He's always asking questions, which is something that you want to see in a young kid, uh, really trying to capture all of that potential that he has and be as good as he actually can be. So that's great to hear, and that will hopefully take us to a win coming up this week. We have a monumental game coming up. It is the Stadium Series game against Pittsburgh in Lincoln Financial Field. Holy fuck, ladies and gentlemen, I am excited. I plan on tailgating all day. I plan on having a great time, getting drunk, getting belligerent, and yelling at the fucking Penguins, cause fuck the Penguins. Um, I just there's so much going on with this game. Uh, I I mean, like I said, I'm gonna be tailgating all day. I'm gonna be partying. I'm gonna be insanely excited for this game. Um, and I hope you are too. If you're going to the tailgate, hope I see you there. Um, but let's break it down to a hockey perspective. So far, the Flyers are 1-1 against the Pittsburgh Penguins. They have also only won at the away building. So the Flyers have won in Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh has won in Philadelphia, which actually keeps up with the trend that I had mentioned in the very first Stadium Series preview. That recently it seems like a lot of back and forth, and us winning in their stadium and then winning in ours. One of the interesting things about that, though, is that the loss 2 years ago and in Heinz Stadium at Pittsburgh was a loss. Pittsburgh won there. So maybe that just means that there's something about playing outside that gives that crowd a bit more of a feel. Maybe the Flyers are really going to be feeling it, really feeling the pressure, or really feeling our excitement, I guess I should say. Um, so hopefully that can end up being a good statistic for Philadelphia and not just Pittsburgh is really good in games outside. Um, as of the recording, we are 8 points out of the last playoff spot in the Eastern Conference, that second wild card spot. So this has giant implications. I mean, if we end up beating Pittsburgh, that could end up saving us 4 points and pushing us a lot closer to them. Hopefully to then take over. They are in that last wild card position. And it's also a really good way to gain some momentum going into the last portion of this season. I mean, there's not much hockey left, guys. I'm upset about it. You're upset about it. A lot of people are upset about it. But it's the truth. There's not a lot of hockey left. So these wins are going to become more and more important. I mean, I know we have a game tonight against Montreal. We have the game on Saturday against Pittsburgh. Some of these games can mean a lot in terms of whether this team is going to live and die in the playoffs or even make it to the playoffs, or even just telling of what next season is. And you already know that that's where I'm really looking for. I really want this team to get everything together right now so that next season it's like, all right, we're good to go. So let's just hope that the Flyers' future is looking bright. As for the future of all of Philadelphia, let's break down the schedule real quick. The Fusion, I mean the Flyers. Sorry, I was getting excited for tonight. The Flyers are at Montreal tonight. Then we are playing Pittsburgh in the Stadium Series on Saturday. The what is that? 25th? Is that what I wrote? Buffalo will then be in town on the 26th. Next up would then be the Sixers. They have a game against Miami tonight, I believe. A game against Portland on Saturday, and a game against the Pelicans on the 25th, I believe I wrote down. Phillies are back in. They are starting their preseason tonight. They're playing Tampa Bay. I believe that's Tampa Bay. I can't really read the cities that I'm looking at. Sorry, guys. They're playing Pittsburgh, then Detroit, then Detroit again, then the Yankees, and ending out the week with Minnesota. The Eagles still in the off season, so no games. Fusion have a game tonight, and then they are playing Dallas on Saturday. The Wings have the week off. They got to take some time to really look at their season and see where they want it to go. The Union are also on a bit of a hiatus just because, again, just a break, just to take a look at what the actual season is going to hold for them. And the Soul are also in their off season. So, big week coming ahead for some of the major sports that are out there. If you like, listening to all this stuff, give me a like. Let me know. Comment below. Subscribe. Do whatever you feel is right. Follow me on Twitter. That's going to be at Dr. PhD, DoctorPhD. And my last thought is I realized that this podcast would make me the only 8 for 8 Philadelphia sports anything in all of Philadelphia. If you can find one other thing that goes 8 for 8, talks about the Flyers, the Sixers, the Phillies, the Eagles, the Fusion, the Wings, the Union, and the Soul, all at one spot, I would love to meet that person. Do they want to collab? But honestly, I think that's pretty cool. If you guys think that's cool, please let me know. I've already plugged my Twitter twice, so I'm not going to do it again here. I'm rambling on. I hope you have a great week. I hope Philadelphia sports has a great week. Let's go Flyers at the Stadium Series. Have a good one.